Hi, I'm Callie.
I'm Lauren.
And this is the Book Commenter Podcast. Welcome back, everyone. We are excited to talk about the Odyssey.
Yes.
This was an interesting read, to say the least. I studied the Iliad and the Odyssey and the Aeneid in college.
Mm-hmm.
But it was at a weird time of college life where I was also working 2 jobs.
Ugh.
So I was doing school, 2 jobs. So I
anything that was like a ton of reading that you had to like be in a certain brain capacity for.
And my professor, he was one of those professors where everyone loved him. Everyone loved him. Everyone fawned over him. You would, if I can remember his name, you'd probably know him because he was an English professor. He was an incomplete professor. He also had his own podcast that he would assign us to listen to where he further talked. And I'm sure his podcast said the great thing.
Maybe it was
I never listened to it.
Maybe it was him. He does a folklore podcast though, so I don't know if it was the same thing.
No, it was like a dedicated podcast he made just to talk about the 3 epics.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know.
I bet you it said great things.
Yeah.
Going into the Odyssey, I was really trying hard to remember the Iliad, so I do apologize. I wish we read the Iliad before.
Me too.
So everything about the Iliad that we're going to say is a lot of, what was it again that we read in college?
Yeah.
But I still had fun reading the Odyssey. It's fun reading epics. Because you get to know like the history and the culture of the Greeks. That's a lot of fun.
I think it is a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed listening to it, being immersed in it. I did audio. I started off reading. I knew I couldn't consistently read. But I will say once you have the text and you're reading it, I did the Robert Fagles translation. And
there's a rhythm to it.
There's a rhythm to it. It was really... It's fast-paced, even with Robert Fagles. Emily Wilson is fast-paced, but his wasn't too bad because you get pretty easily immersed. I will say something that was a struggle in his translation for me was their use of commas. Sometimes really threw off who they were talking about sometimes.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so I was sometimes confused with the way that they used commas sometimes. Yeah. I was just like, that was an interesting way to do that, and I'm not sure who we're talking about now.
That's fair. That's fair.
Like, who's this person? Like, I don't know. Like, it would switch perspectives, so I was like, I don't know who you're talking about right now. So that was hard, but listening to the audio made it a lot easier to follow.
Which we'll get into whether or not reading it or audio.
Yeah.
What we recommend for this.
But
before we get into all of this, Lauren, what have you consumed? Let's just say that. What have you consumed this past month? What have you enjoyed?
Yes, what have I enjoyed lately? I've been rereading Throne of Glass series.
Oh, yeah.
So I've been kind of cheating.
No, that's awesome. I love rereading.
So it's been hurting my readings for this podcast. But I've been rereading that, and right now I'm in Heir of Fire, which is the 3rd book.
That's exciting.
And I'm rereading them because Throne of Glass is kind of the book series that brought me back into reading. And I love it. I love it. And it's interesting because we did ACOTAR for this podcast before, but I feel like I should have had you read Throne of Glass. Because
do Throne of Glass in the future.
We could. Maybe when they do like a film adaptation or show adaptation, which they'll eventually do. Yeah. Probably. That one's good because it's not all romance. Honestly, it's really about the one character. Yeah. And her story. And I just really like her, even though there's really unlikable parts about her. Yeah. But I really like her. I like the politics in this story. I really like how she is kind of an unreliable narrator, actually. So, like, there's, like, you never actually know what she's thinking or what she's going to do. I kind of like that. I've been rereading that because I just need to find a little bit more joy in life. Reading, because sometimes it's really easy to just be caught up in survival mode. Yeah. So it's been really helping me romanticize life lately.
Oh, I love that. I mean, I'm doing the same thing. We went to a book panel with Brandon Sanderson, Robin Hobb, and Ryan Cahill. It was so good. It was so fun. But I was so excited to meet Robin Hobb. Yeah. So I started rereading her massive series. Yes. So I'm on the 2nd book. I'm of like the
Assassin's Apprentice.
No, it's the Mad Ship trilogy. So I read the first trilogy. I'm on the 2nd trilogy. I'm on the 2nd book of the 2nd trilogy.
Oh, whoa. Right. Okay.
And I'm doing the same thing. I'm like going through it slowly. So like I'm reading that like in between other things. Yeah. But it's just a fun thing. I love rereading books.
And like I agree. Like I felt like there was a time where I was like, rereading, like there's so many books out there. Yeah. Like why waste time rereading books? But truly like it's not the same book. It's like, what is the Pocahontas line from her something about rivers is you can't step in the same river twice. Yes. The water's always changing, always flowing. That part, like, that is my reading experience when I reread books. Like, I feel like when you reread books, it's not the same book anymore when you're older.
No, it's true.
That's my take.
I mostly notice, like, characters that I didn't notice the first time around. I noticed different characters and, like, their impact.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what I get more out when I reread stories. I don't know. I love rereading.
And rereading this really gets me emotionally from a mom's perspective, because I'm like, okay, it's just very emotional. So but anyways,
no, that's awesome.
So that's my thoughts on rereading. And also, because there's so many books out there, why waste time reading books that just don't meet you?
Exactly.
Like, I think it's good to branch out, but also if nothing's getting you, like, it's not working. Okay.
No, I feel that.
Anyway, so that's me. And you, I guess. Rereading the things we love in between this podcast.
M.L. Wong, the author that wrote Sword of Kaigen, came out with a new book.
Again? Oh my gosh. Did she just come out with one? In, like, the fall? It was that one?
It was a couple years ago.
Oh.
Blood Over Brighthaven.
Oh, so M.L. Wong. I'm confusing.
R.F. Kuang.
Yes.
No, it's okay.
That's embarrassing.
It's okay. It happens.
M.L. Wong came out with a new book.
Yes.
R.F. Kuang came out with one last fall, which
she
is
also
incredible.
But she is also coming out with one this fall.
Okay.
So it is confusing because she's also coming out with a new book. But M.L. Wong, who wrote Sword of Kaigen, my favorite book of all time, came out with a new book. And she, if you're signed up for her newsletter, she, like, sent out a free version, like a free PDF version that's on my Kindle.
Oh, good for you.
So that's waiting for me to read. And I'm very excited. Yes.
That'll be a fun weekend.
It will.
All right. Well, guys.
Let's do this.
Who was Homer, Callie? And that is the question.
Who was Homer? No one knows. If we were to... I'm going to go into... So when I was doing research, I didn't go super far into it. I kind of just picked what most scholars think.
Yes.
This is, like, very common. Most people think this about Homer. I found one scholar who was going off about, he thinks that the person that wrote the Iliad is different than the person that wrote the Odyssey, and the person that wrote the Odyssey was a woman.
I've heard. Whoa.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes, but we don't need to get into that. If you want to know more about that, I didn't think it was very convincing, but good for them.
There is a ton of research about this.
Yes.
For sure, that you can sift through.
This is true.
Hey guys, Editing Callie here. I wanted to jump in before we start talking about Homer. As you're gonna find out, I say the statement that ancient Greeks did not have a written language until the 9th century BC a lot. And I feel like I never fully explained what I mean by that, and it is very important to the rest of the conversation. So I just very briefly want to explain what I mean when I say this. So ancient Greek did have a written language. However, after the Bronze Age, writing was lost during the Greek Dark Ages. So meaning that literacy had to be reintroduced later, which is around the 9th to 8th century BC, which is when the Greek alphabet became more widespread and literacy came back. So that is also around the time when the Iliad and the Odyssey were first recorded to have been written down. So that's just what I meant, that ancient Greek didn't have a written language, because that statement, while technically false in the context of Homer, is true, because what I'm saying is scholars most likely believe Homer existed sometime between the Bronze Age and 8th century BC, which is a time period when the written language was lost. When it came back, within that time period, the tradition of spreading stories orally, that is when that started. And a lot of scholars believe that the Iliad and the Odyssey was probably spread sometime between those 400 years and then was written down when the Greek alphabet became widespread. So I just wanted to justify that statement because I'm going to say it a lot and I just feel like it didn't make sense without the context, and it is technically false. So I do apologize. I should have explained it better beforehand, but anyways, back to
No one really knows who Homer is, or even if he is, like, one singular person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, was Homer a group of bards? That's a big popular one. So no one really knows who Homer is, or if he's even a he, or if he's a group of people.
Yeah.
So the question is, who's Homer? And is the same person who wrote the Iliad and the Odyssey. Scholars today consider it highly probable that the Homeric poems are overall more typical of ancient dialects of the western coast of Turkey, and the islands just off the coast then are of the mainland Greece. So they think that Homer, if he was a person, was most likely from a city in Turkey. Several writers described a talented poet of Chios, which is the city, where a group of performing bards call themselves the Homerodary, or the children of Homer. And they established themselves by the 6th century BC. So they're like, okay, so there was a group of people who considered themselves the children of Homer, were the bards, that would like spread the story around.
Oh.
But no one actually knows, like, okay, but then where did the Homer come from?
Oh, interesting.
So that's kind of where that was.
So it's kind of spread around orally?
At first, yes.
Okay.
So that's why...
I mean, that makes sense.
So then the question is Homer the one that came up with the story? Or is Homer the one that wrote it down? Greek didn't have a written language for a while.
That's crazy because it could just also be a translation of a different, of like a story that was passed around.
Exactly.
And so he recorded it, but he recorded his version.
Exactly. So even like the ancient Greek original text we have, it probably is a translation. Because like bards, usually what they would do is they would hear the story, they'd memorize it, and then they would perform it, their translation of their performance. So like the original, quote unquote, we don't actually know if they're like what the original is. Is this the original?
That's fun.
It is fun.
Speculate. Mm-hmm.
There's just lots of questions.
Yes. More questions than answers that we have, so.
This is true. References, some scholars reference that early sources of Homer being conceived, like the idea of Homer on the island of Los or Cyme? C-Y-M-E.
Cyme.
Okay, Cyme. It's just a bunch of places. It's not really that important.
Yeah.
A lot of scholars believe that he was a blind man because the word, this is a little bit in the weeds a little bit, but I thought it was interesting. So the Greek name Homeros oftentimes can be translated into English as like a blind man. So some scholars think that Homer was a blind man. He was a bard that was blind. So he came up with the story in his head, but since he couldn't write anything down, if this was after the written language was invented, is when he came up with the story, he had to speak it.
Yes.
So that's why it was spread orally. So if we're going to go timeline-wise, some people question whether or not it was written before Greek had a written language, and it was just spread orally that way, or it was invented after, but Homer was a blind bard, so he couldn't write it down. So someone else wrote it down for him.
That makes sense. Okay.
So those are kind of like the two big popular ones.
Yeah.
Most people think he was a blind bard.
Okay.
However, most likely, in my opinion, after looking at everything, if we were to say what I think is most probable, I think it was most likely created before the written language was created. Like, to me, that makes the most amount of sense, because this is a myth that was shared before the Greeks developed a written language, so they were only shared orally, and then someone just like wrote it down.
Yeah.
That's what I think happened.
That makes sense.
I don't know, though.
I don't know. I can get behind that.
You guys can do your own research. There's so much.
Yeah, it is definitely a rabbit hole.
If you Google when the Odyssey and the Iliad were written, it will say sometime in the late 8th or 7th century BC, which is also around the same time when writing became widespread in Greece. But that doesn't mean that everyone knew how to write.
Yeah.
So this is when poets started writing down their works and sharing them. However, scholars have found that both these stories were shared and passed down long before this. So if I were to summarize what a lot of scholars and what I think is, it was a story that was very popular. The written language was invented, and then poets were like, wow, this is an amazing poem.
Yeah.
Or amazing story. I'm going to write it down.
Yeah.
And some poet, who could have been Homer, wrote it down. Yes.
Okay, we're going to go with that.
Some scholars even think that this story could have been invented as early as 400 years earlier than the 8th or 7th century BC, because the Trojan War was a war that probably happened, but it would have happened sometime during the Bronze Age,
so
which was 400 years prior.
12th century or whatever?
Something like that. So then if the Odyssey and the Iliad are seen to be as part of history and not a fantastical tale, they're talk of a long lost time even for Greeks of the 8th century. So historians have also dipped in and been like, when is this? I think it was invented in the Bronze Age. So if that's the case, then it was invented long before people were writing things down. In the end,
really know who he is.
We don't know. I like how the Poetry Foundation puts it. I'm just going to read this paragraph, because if what I said didn't make sense, this will make sense. Not much is known about Homer or if he even existed, but he is culturally conjured as a blind Greek oral poet who lived either 9th or 8th century BCE and is considered to be the author of the epic poems, the Iliad and the Odyssey. Both of these two books were written by one genius or the product of many bards contributing to and reworking an oral tradition over generations. The Iliad and the Odyssey are considered two of the most influential works in the history of Western civilization. Yeah. They provided the basis of ancient Greek education and culture, became the template for storytelling in the form of epic poems for 2 millennia, and then served as a central text for classical humanities education through the Roman Empire and the spread of Christianity all the way through the 19th century. So at the end of the day, we don't know who Homer is, but this is the Iliad and the Odyssey literally changed
the landscape of literature forever.
Literally. And we're still studying it today. And this is thousands of years old.
And the themes,
which is crazy.
The stories of it are still like embedded in the way we storytell now. Mm-hmm. He is like the foundation, or she, who knows, is the them,
who knows,
is the foundation of,
we could just say he,
of a lot of our storytelling. Yeah. I really like how they say that. And I feel like the Odyssey is such a buzz term right now with the film adaptation coming up. We'll have to do a little reaction video.
Oh yes, I already have my tickets.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't.
I was about to say you got to get on this. If you want to come with me.
There's so many movies going on in this month too. So we will be living at the movie theaters this month. Yes. The 18th.
If you're free.
I would love to. So the Odyssey is coming out. It's a big term, and I like how Christopher Nolan said it because he was like, the Odyssey is the story.
Yeah.
And it is.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So then the next question is, what translation should you read? Who's Homer? We don't know who that is. Okay, so what we have, and none of us can read ancient Greek. So what are we going to do?
And that's the biggest thing is like translation is such an important word to think about.
Yeah, it's true.
Because like, it's not going to be the same. And it's going to change your reading experience.
And each translator has like their own, they have their own bias. They have their own part of the story that resonated with them that they're going to put forward. And even though they're like wanting to be like in their heart.
Exactly.
As like faithful as possible, I think as a person.
You can't
really do that fully. So I think it is important to look into which translation you want to read.
Yes, Lasai. Like, I totally agree with that because I feel like Robert Fagles, Emily Wilson, those were the big ones for us. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They clearly are doing something very important. They're doing a very ambitious work.
Yeah.
And even if they, in their heart of hearts, are trying to be as integrous to the literature as they can, you always have your own perspective, your that bleeds into your writing. Like, even when we were talking about the Wordsworths last month, I was inserting my own thoughts of like Wordsworth and like his relationship with Dorothy and like how I imagined them. And even when we were dissecting our poem, The Leech Gatherer, I was interchangeably talking about the narrator and Wordsworth. Like, the narrator of the poem isn't Wordsworth. Like, he's his own being, but Wordsworth wrote him. And so I just kind of assumed the narrator is Wordsworth. So his, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I know what you mean.
That is my own bias, I guess, or like my own understanding of the literature. And so even then you're getting a translation, like my translation of it. So that's something to think about as we go into these translations.
Okay, so to dive in, just to help you guys out figure out what translations you want to read, Lauren and I read two different ones.
Yes.
So Lauren read the Robert Fagles, and then I read the Emily Wilson. The movie is based off of the Emily Wilson's translation. So that's where they get a lot of their language from.
Yeah.
That's going to happen in the movie. Mm-hmm. A lot of schools either have you study this one, the Fagles, or the Fitzgeralds. Those are seen as like the scholarly ones.
The literary.
And they're very epic. Like, they feel like an epic.
Because that is the genre that it was written as.
I would say like our modern day understanding of an epic, I feel like that's what they feel like to me. Emily Wilson's, when I read it, it honestly felt like if my grandma was telling me the story,
in her words,
that's kind of how she would tell it. It felt like if there was a bard today in the room who was going to tell the story, how would they say it? That's kind of what it felt like. So I liked it.
Yeah.
It's very like, it's very straightforward.
But yeah. I don't mind it. It is simplified, and that's how I feel like a modern bard would be.
This is true.
Yeah, it's not as has a rhythm to it.
There's a newer one that came out in 2025 by Daniel Mendelsohn. He's the newest major translation. He was very He wanted to get the rolling 6-beat line inspired by the Homeric ditalic hexameter. When he was writing the story, he says that's like a big part of how you're supposed to be telling the story.
Interesting.
So that was like his main goal for it. Emily Wilson's, I feel like it's often considered the best translation for beginners. So if you're scared of going into the Odyssey, or you just want something, I don't want to say easier, because easier is not a bad thing, but just something easier.
More digestible.
It's fast paced. Then Emily Wilson's a good one. She prioritizes clarity, momentum, direct and honest language. Fitzgerald for decades. So this is the one I studied in college. His translation was widely regarded as the literary standard. He's very elegant, lyrical, and deeply attentive to the poem's beauty. Fagles is still one of the most commonly assigned translations. So most people have probably read the Fagles one.
Yeah.
And then the oldest one, which most people don't really read anymore, is the Richard Lattimore. It's another academic one. His translation attempts to remain structurally close to Greek, and including its repetitions and formulaic qualities. So there's that 6-beat line.
Kind of like Mendelssohn.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then just like examples of each translation. And I pulled all of this from a really great article by, SusanWilson.com.
Or Suzanne.
Suzanne. It's J. Suzanne Wilson. I'll link it. It's great. I think it's a great article. Just to give you a little taste of all of them. So Mendelssohn's the newest one. Mm-hmm. When the poem famously opens by calling him Pelotropus, which is a Greek word. I'm probably butchering that. which usually means something like resourceful or cunning or shifty, depending on the context. Yeah. So each translator, with their goals in mind, translated that word differently. So Mendelssohn said, a man who had so many roundabout ways. Wilson simply says, a complicated man. Fitzgerald said, that man skilled in all ways of contending. Fagles said, the man of twists and turns. Mm-hmm. And Lattimore says, the man of many ways. So it kind of just depends on what you like.
Yeah.
And then the other big one that a lot of people have pointed out is the Greek word for dumui.
So take the word dumui.
Dumui, which usually refers to an enslaved woman. However, older translations will use words like handmaiden or serving woman, versus Mendelssohn and Wilson will just say slave, because that's like a more direct translation.
Yeah.
I think in the context of the story, they're more regarded as like handmaids. But for like the history, that's what they were. They were slaves.
Yeah.
Which I think is, slavery has been around. It's not good.
No, it's not good.
It's been around.
We do it to each other all the time.
Slavery, sadly, is very profitable. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not good.
No.
But that's kind of another taste. Like little words like slavery, they're just directly translated in some of them versus like serving women and others.
Yeah.
In my opinion, if I were to round this up, I don't think there's a quote unquote bad translation. I think they all serve a different purpose.
Yes.
We're never truly ever going to be able to read the Odyssey because A, we can't read ancient Greek, and B, we don't even know if the ancient Greek version is the original version, or if that's just a translation from a bard or a group of bards. We don't know. So I think it all comes down to your reading taste and what you like to get out of the story. Homer composed in ditalic hexameter, a long rolling meter meant to be heard aloud, but ancient Greek and English works very differently. Mm-hmm. So there's no perfect way to recreate that rhythm. So even I heard some people argue that they don't like Wilson's because hers doesn't feel like a poem. Because it's supposed to have the 6 meters.
It's supposed to have the rhythm. It's supposed to be poetic.
Yeah, well, specifically, this might also be in the weeds, but I thought this was so interesting. The dactylic hexameter is a line consisting of 6 feet, where each foot is either a dactyl, which is a long syllable, or 2 short syllables, or spondy, which is 2 long syllables, if you remember your English classes.
Yes, yes.
This doesn't exist in English. Mm-hmm. People try doing it. The most famous one is this guy named Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. I'm going to try to get it in the right rhythm.
Henry Wadsworth Longfellow.
Yeah.
We know him.
We know him. His poem, Evangeline. I'm going to try to get this in the correct rhythm. This is the forest primeval, the murmuring pines and the hemlocks, bearded with moss and in garments, green indistinct in the twilight. It's weird in English. it doesn't make sense.
I wish we had like...
Because we measure our syllables differently than Greeks do.
Yes.
So it doesn't exist the same way.
Yeah.
So I think even the argument about it being poetic, like the original Greek, doesn't really hold because you can't do it in English.
I am with you on that. There is no perfect translation. You're not going to get the same thing. There's things in Spanish you cannot translate into English in the same way. There's things in Japanese, like you said, that there's no word for it in English. And you can try your best to... And that's the beautiful thing about language, right?
Yeah.
But you can try your best to meet it, but you're just not going, it's not going to give off the same feeling, the same intention.
Yeah. So I honestly think for the translation thing,
it doesn't matter.
Unless you're you're really into it and you know a lot about Greek. I think if you're just like someone like us, or someone who wants to read it before they watch the movie, just find what you like.
Exactly. It's really about how you as a reader like to experience stories. And like, some people have very strong preferences of Robert Fagles. They want the traditional, they want the epic, they want the cinematic.
Or Fitzgerald,
Or the Fitzgerald. And then Emily Wilson, she's very digestible. She's very accessible.
Yeah.
And if you're just trying to get the story, it's hard to follow those traditional translations. I don't think that's a bad thing.
And she's the first woman that's ever fully translated
the Odyssey.
The Odyssey, which is pretty cool. She also did the Iliad.
Yeah, and also there's merits to that too. Like I'm curious. In our spoiler edition, I have some questions for you.
Okay,
on how you liked it.
Yeah, I like how we had 2 long rants, and then at the end it was like, but then again, it
doesn't matter.
I did all this research, and at the end I'm like, okay, that's cool, but for the story, does it actually really change anything?
Yeah,
not really.
It's for the scholars out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing that I regret we didn't do was read the Iliad.
I know.
Because the Odyssey is a companion novel to the Iliad, and I think if you don't at least have a basic understanding of the Iliad, the Odyssey doesn't make a lot of sense.
And I'm so impressed with us last year because around this time we had read Lord of the Rings.
We did all
of them.
And
I listened and read that whole thing and struggled to get through Odyssey this last month when we should have just done the Iliad, because I feel like the Iliad launches you into the Odyssey in a better way, and then when you read the Odyssey, it gives you better context, and then the Aeneid would be interesting to talk about.
The Aeneid's just the Roman version of the Iliad.
Yes.
Yeah. I like the Aeneid. I like it. I like all the characters in it.
Yeah, that's kind of our shtick, I guess, is that we should have done
Achilles is just more fun than Odysseus. I don't know.
But also, I don't know.
You're I disagree.
I have
thoughts.
I have thoughts.
No, I love it.
I have thoughts. But
yes, just like super basic, I would recommend, I'll link videos. I would recommend watching a crash course video. I'm pretty sure Hank Green has one for the Iliad.
Oh, they're great. Those videos are great.
He has one for the Odyssey. Does he? I think he has one for the Iliad. But what you really just need to know about the Iliad is about a war, the Trojan War, that had been going on for many years before the story even starts. So we're coming in, and this gal, Helen of Troy gets kidnapped by Paris, right?
Yes.
And is it King Agamemnon?
Yes.
Is all butthurt about
Agamemnon, yeah.
He's very upset. And so then it just launches into this crazy thing.
Paris is the worst.
Yes. And you've got our big person in there our big characters are Achilles and Hector. Achilles kills the Trojan champion Hector in a single combat to avenge his friend Patroclus, and then Achilles ties Hector's body to his chariot and drags it around outside the walls of Troy. That's the big thing that is known from the Iliad. But for the purpose of the Odyssey, all you really need to know is there was a war. Odysseus helped stop the war.
And he's coming back from that.
He was the one that came up with the idea of the Trojan horse. Because Odysseus was the cunning general. He was the spy. He was the one that came up with the lies.
Yes.
And how to trick people.
Yes, and that's the whole point of the beginning. He was a complicated man. He's a man of twists and turns. That's why Athena favors Odysseus so much, is because he's so smart. Yeah. And he's very clever, and he's more brains than brawn.
Even though he is super strong.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too.
He's basically a god.
Yeah. And they also, it's interesting because they always, I love how people say like how the descriptions of the characters, like Athena's like bright-eyed, but then when she talks, they talk about Telemachus or whatever.
Telemachus. Literally practices right before.
Telemachus. Golly. It's because I'm like going off like how I read it, and then there's the audio and how you know you're supposed to say it.
It's
Telemachus is like always described as looking just like his dad, who's like kind of like strong and anyways. So that's Odysseus.
Arguably, I think that's the true hero of the story.
She really is. She's driving the show.
Literally. Honestly. Odysseus would have stayed on that freaking island.
Yeah, he would have stayed. And then also Telemachus would have just been a boy. He never would have become the man he needed to be.
We'll get into that.
Yeah. Didn't realize that though. I was like, I thought Athena was like a side character, and then I read this and I was like, oh yeah, she's the main character.
She really is. So yeah, basically all you need to know about the Iliad is that Odysseus and Athena's relationship did start in the Iliad. He went to war, a lot of things happened, and now he's going back home. Yeah. So it's framed as a tragedy because he's this great war hero, and then he gets trapped on an island, and then he's trying to go home.
The whole time he's just, and that's the biggest theme is like, and we were told that we need to bring this up. Nostos, or nostos is the Greek word for this theme of returning home, like the journey home, and like the person you need to become, and like the person that has changed through the journey in returning home, and that's like a huge thing about the Odyssey that is a part of storytelling today that you still see in all our literature. I think of Nemo. I think of what's something that we just watched recently? Oh, like the 5th Pirates of the Caribbean, about like Will's son who's like trying to find him.
That's just kind of thing. I feel like that's common just everywhere.
Yeah, or someone said SpongeBob is the Odyssey.
You know, I never really watched SpongeBob growing up. So I
never
have no idea.
I never did either, so I didn't know either. But people that said that they grew up watching it, and someone said that, they're like, "Whoa!"
Percy Jackson.
So there's just so many like concepts of like trying to get back home and that journey of like being compelled to go back home, and the person that is being shaped by it.
All right, well, I hope that made sense.
I think it did.
And it wasn't too rambly. We're excited to get more into spoiling. We'll see you next time.
Bye. That was good.